Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Triangle BNI. My name is Mike Manning, and each week we bring you a small business success story from BNI. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International. It's the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle, which is pretty much central North Carolina, it's Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. We have 30 chapters meeting each week. We've got about 5 or 6 core groups trying to get to the size to become official chapters, and roughly about 600 members in Triangle BNI each week coming together to help each other grow our business. So we like to focus on a new story each week, and our guest this week is Scott Sams, owner of Dynamic Print Solutions. Scott, glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Mike.
And Scott is the vice president of RD18, which is the chapter I'm in. Scott and I have known each other for a little while. It is RD18 Connections in Motion, meets Thursdays at noon at Red Hot and Blue. We always like to tell people, A, you're going to get business if you come visit us, but you'll get to eat some good barbecue,
That's
which I
right.
know is a good choice for everybody. So we are, second week of June here. So how's business for 2019 so far?
Yeah, business this year has been really good. We got off to a slow start in January, but then we picked that up, and we are actually having a record year so far. So I hope that continues.
Are you cyclical?
We are not cyclical in the sense that there's a season where we're down and a season where we're up, but the end of the year and the very beginning of the year are times when we do see our business fall off. So in
Okay.
the December and January time frame, and sometimes that trickles into February, if there is a slow time, that would be the slow time. Most of the other times of the year, it's pretty consistent in terms of volume, and obviously, I'm wanting to see that grow
Yeah.
from year to year.
So during the end of December, early January, it's vacation time, budgeting, planning, things like that.
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
we deal with a lot of small businesses, and
Yeah.
unlike the corporations and the people who are trying to get all the Christmas traffic and all that, they're focused at that time. But our customers are more focused on getting the gifts and
Yeah.
getting everything ready for their kids and their families and that kind of thing. So I think signage kind of falls off the radar during that time of year for a lot of our customers.
And we're going to talk during the show here that kind of the difference between signage and printing. And you've done a good job educating me on that because we're
Mhm.
talking last Thursday and I'm headed one way thinking of what you need. You're like, no, let me send you back the right way. But just what businesses, big or small businesses need. So we'll get to that as well.
Okay.
All right. Each week, if you're not familiar with BNI, if you'll please go to trianglebni.com. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a button that says Find a Chapter. If you click on that, you'll get a drop down and you can click by day, by location, by time. We have chapters meeting Monday through Friday. Most of them are during the breakfast time or at lunch. I think there's a couple of 9 o'clocks. There may even be a 9:15, but it'll show you what part of town you're in. If you're in Wake Forest, if you're in Holly Springs, Durham, wherever you are, it will give you some information on what chapters meet there, what days and what time they meet. And we just want you to come out and visit because as you know, each week we bring you some pretty cool people. They are successful, but they're just good people. They help in the community, things like that. And we're all there to help each other each week grow or start a business. So we just ask you to come out and visit. No, you don't have to commit to anything yet, but just come out and visit. And each week in a BNI chapter, there's a featured speaker. And in our chapter, we have 10 minutes to talk. And that person is introduced by the member bio sheet. So, Scott, that's how we're going to do it here. So our speaker today, Scott Sams, business name is Dynamic Print Solutions. Scott is the owner. Location and years in business.
So we are located in Raleigh on Old Wake Forest Road, 6516 Old Wake Forest Road. We have been there since July of 2010, and I've been in business for a good bit longer than that. But I'll tell maybe a little bit about that later. But I began full time into the signage and printing business in 2010.
What was it about that location that you liked, other than maybe price?
Yeah, so the location had been a sign company for 30 years when I moved in
Oh,
there. So it's been a sign company for 40 years now. And
nice.
and that's really nice because people who have driven by there that have grown up here and been around for a long time, they remember that as the place the
Oh,
place with the signs sign at the front. So if you drive around North Raleigh very much, if you drive down Old Wake Forest Road, that sign sign that you see there has been there for a long, long time.
Did you change the size of that big sign out front, or did you just change the
Didn't change anything about it except that it has panels on it like most businesses that have
Yeah.
multi-tenants do. We just put a panel up there with our name on it, and we put a panel on the building with our name
Nice.
on it, but the sign has looked just like it does today for 40 years.
Huh. Where were you before you moved into that location?
Yeah, so before I came to the location we're at now, I was in Youngsville, and I was in the middle of nowhere, basically. I was in a one-story, kind of a not an industrial, but light commercial, I guess,
Mhm.
building that was off the beaten path. It was about a half mile off Capitol Boulevard, way out there. Of
Yeah.
course, it used to be way out there, but,
Yeah.
before you get to
A little
96.
different today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And the move was to get closer towards town and
Yeah, I was
yeah.
trying to get more visibility
Okay.
get closer to my customer base and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Who did you start the company with?
Uh,
Employee-wise or anything like
it
that?
was just me. Yep. So I started the business as a part-time thing to get out of the corporate world, and so it was just me, and it was part-time for quite a while, about 8 years before I went full-time.
'Cause I know you have an IT background, which we'll get
That's
to on
right.
that. So this was
Yep.
the ultimate side hustle
It
that turned
was
into a career,
it
right?
was a side hustle that has turned into a career. Yep.
Okay.
Until
And
until the next career comes along.
you're young, you got another one
That's
going. So,
right, that's right, I'm
print
following in your footsteps.
printing is in your blood, right? Or
Mhm.
something with graphics and design.
I guess, yeah.
Who was the first person you hired?
The first person I hired, was a young man that I'm not gonna remember his name.
That's
No,
fine.
actually, I do, his name was Eddie.
Okay.
He was my first employee, and, he was around, I think, about a year, before he moved on, and
Okay.
then, kinda just moved from there.
Now, when did you go full-time printing and signage?
It was in 2010, in
Okay.
July of
When you
2010,
made the
and
move?
that's about the yeah, and
Okay.
that's about the time when I hired my first employee
Okay.
too. As soon as I moved into that space, I started trying to, um, not be the one-stop shop,
Yeah.
be the one doing everything.
Yeah.
So, that was a struggle too in the beginning of figuring out how to have employees, how to delegate things off of
Oh,
my plate.
yeah.
It's something that sounds easy until you have to do it, and it takes time to understand how that works and how to do it properly.
It does because a lot of times, whether you're a solopreneur or not, that plan's gotta be there. And
Mhm.
first of all, you have to hit some financial goals to be able to hire somebody. So
Yep.
not only do you have payroll, but maybe benefits, a new van,
Mhm.
and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, and you've got the 2 people there now?
I have 3 employees right now.
You have Sean?
Sean, Jethro, and Earl. And really I have I have 5, because I will count my wife who is
Yeah.
part-time as a bookkeeper,
Mhm.
and my son is also helping us out now
Oh, really?
part-time. He works for us, several hours a week now.
Okay. When did he join you?
About 2.5 months ago or so, maybe 3.
Did you make him sweep the floor the first week just to
I should have.
then the next question is, does he do it at home? Why would he do it
No,
at work, right?
exactly. There's challenges that we have to take little baby
Yeah.
steps.
I remember those days. Previous types of jobs, I have your work history to a point. We'll talk about that later.
Mhm.
Everybody that comes on here, we get that memorable high school, right out of high school, early college job that for whatever
Mhm.
reason, it's a good story to tell, even
Okay.
if you have to fall on your own sword.
Yep, yep.
So, do you have one of those?
I don't know how good of a story it is, but my first job, and I was in high school, I was a junior in a high school when I started this job, was with Pizza Hut. So I was making pizzas, as a teenager in high school, and I thought I was making a ton of money. I think I was making like $4 an hour or something like that. I don't even remember. But I did that for about 2.5 years, and just kind of whenever I do something, I go all in on it, and I ended up making it to assistant manager by the time I graduated from high school, just in time to quit and move to Raleigh.
Not bad. How many hours a
Mhm.
week were you once you got to assistant manager?
During school, I was working 20 hours a week, and in the summers, I was working 40 plus hours
Oh,
a week.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I can't imagine how many friends hit you up. "Come on, Scott, slide us a free pizza."
Yeah, of
Oh,
course. Yep,
oh.
yep.
You
And the drama in this is probably true in any fast food or
oh,
food service, The drama was, I guess, where the stories are. I don't have the memory to pull up any specific ones right now, but there was lots of drama,
Yeah.
at Pizza Hut. It was fun.
And so they were also probably hitting you up for a job too, right?
Yep, there
Okay.
were there were
And about
cases
half of
like
them
that.
worked out?
Probably less than half.
That's actually a pretty good job to find out who your true friends are, isn't it?
That's right. Yep,
Oh, because
yep.
somebody you haven't talked to in 6 months heard you're assistant manager, now
Mhm.
you're buddy, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep, yep.
Have you cooked since?
Unfortunately, yes, and pizza.
Okay, you
Yeah,
still make a good pizza?
I can still make pizza.
Okay.
I don't do it very often, but yes, I'm the best at cutting the pizza.
Yes,
My
okay,
family likes for me to slice the pizza.
okay. I learned, do you have brothers and sisters?
I have a sister.
Okay,
Yep,
older or younger?
she's younger.
Okay, so
Mhm.
tell me if you pulled this move on her. I had a younger brother, and being the older brother, I just was not a good big brother sometimes, so when there was a little slice of dessert, I would cut it and give him the half he's gonna get, till one day he complained to my dad, and my dad goes, "Alright, whoever cuts, the other one chooses."
Oh.
I'm like, "Oh, dude, you're killing me."
You destroyed your plans.
Oh, so I imagine when you cut your pizza at home for the kids,
Mhm.
everything's gotta
Oh,
be
it's gotta be perfect.
yeah,
Yeah,
because otherwise, "No, his slice is bigger, her
yeah,
slice is bigger."
yeah.
That's too funny.
We sometimes make fun of the Papa John's and the Domino's slices too, because they take, like, 2 seconds to cut it, and,
Oh,
like,
there's a
one
couple
piece
of them
is,
that are
like, the
yeah,
size of 3, and another piece is, like, the
yeah,
size of,
yeah.
a quarter of a piece. It's pretty funny.
Now when you were working when you're the assistant manager there, had you
Mhm.
had enough pizza to eat, or were you still eating it every
I
day?
you know, I got tired of it, but I still every now and then enjoyed having
Yeah,
a
yeah,
pizza even right up to the very end.
yeah.
Of course, I would make it myself, so it was, doctored, but
There you
it
go.
was good.
Oh, that's true, okay, so you put on some extra okay,
Yeah,
I got you.
a
We won't
few
go into
extra
that, so
things. We
yeah.
won't talk
No,
about
no,
that.
not
I
also.
might get in trouble.
The next part of the bio sheet is personal information, and I always ask people, "How did you meet your wife,
Okay.
and do you both tell the story the same way?"
Well, that's a good question, and I think we both tell the story the same
Okay.
way. Her father
Your
int
wife's name is?
My wife's
Yeah.
name is
Okay,
Patty,
right.
that's right, and Patty's father actually introduced us to each other.
Hmm.
I was working as a contractor, for the same contracting company that he worked for, and we were both assigned to the same, uh contract downtown Raleigh. We were working for a bank, and so we would go out to lunch from time to time together. And one day he had told his daughter that he would go to lunch with her and had forgotten. And then he asked me if I wanted to go at lunch with him and another guy as well. And then he figured out that he had double booked himself. So instead of cutting us out because he
Yeah.
wouldn't cut her out, he just said, "Well, let's just all go together," and he introduced us, and uh, that that was the initial introduction. And it took a few months, but we ended up going out together, and it ended up where it is today.
I'm a big I'm a big time and place guy. I'm a
Hmm.
big picture plans.
Yep.
We all have a plan for us, and I'm a huge fan of that. Now this here's how you need to tell that story from here on. Okay, let me just help
All
you
right.
between friends, all right?
Yep.
Is you need to say, "My future father-in-law was so impressed with me, I was the only one good enough to marry his daughter."
Yep. Yep. There we go. I'm gonna have you tell that story
I'll
for me.
gladly do that. Next time you're talking, I'll get up and tell the
There you
story.
go. There you go.
So you and Patty meet at lunch. Where's it go from
Hmm.
there?
Well, we met at lunch, and then we did that a few times. So after that one meeting, then we started. We would go out, her dad and usually there were one or two other people. We probably did that for a couple of months before I ended up asking her out. So it went on for a little while, and then I ended up deciding that I wanted to ask her out on a date, and I did, and she said yes, and it just went from there.
Yeah, absolutely. When you first met her, was there a little something there you thought, I'd like to spend some more time here.
Eh, there was interest.
Okay,
Yes,
all
there
right.
was,
Both of you?
even from the beginning.
Even from her?
You would have to ask
We'll
her
go with
that
yes.
question.
I'll ask her next time I see her, but we'll go with yes on that. So, and how long did you guys date before you got engaged? And how long were you engaged before you got married?
We dated for 2 years, I think,
Okay.
and we, were engaged for 10 months. So I may get in trouble for getting some of that
As long as you
wrong.
get the
I'm not sure
anniversary
about the
date
first
right.
part, but we
Yeah,
were engaged for 10 months,
right.
I believe.
As long as you get how you proposed
Mhm.
and when the anniversary is, everything else is negotiable. 9 months,
Alright.
10 months, stuff like that.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so how'd you get the job at the contracting company?
Yeah, so I guess can I go into some history at
Absolutely.
this point?
Sure.
Yeah, so I started, well, I have to go back a little ways, back to, 14, 15 years old is when I decided that I really liked computers and technology. So this would have been 84, 85, uh, pretty pretty early in the personal computer
Oh,
world.
yeah.
So it was way early. And I just loved it, and I wanted a computer. I ended up getting my first computer, when I was 14, I believe,
What kind?
maybe a little younger, actually. It was an Atari 400, so
Now, hang on a
it
sec.
was a uh-huh.
For those people that can't see, Amnon and Scott are about to go into geek talk here about computers.
Yeah,
Mine
so
was a TI-99
oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So it was the same era. Yep. So I had the 400 with the flat
Yep.
keyboard that
Oh, I just lost it.
people would cringe at now.
I just lost the show, people.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. We'll get back
So
on track.
there we go. So anyway, so that's been my passion for a long time, and I always knew that I wanted to get into that field somehow. But my problem was that I hated school. I did not want to. I went to school. I got a high school diploma and all that, but I did not enjoy it. And when I came to Raleigh, I went to NC State for a short time, a few semesters, in the computer science program. But as soon as I came here, I started looking for jobs, and I actually went to a temp agency called Manpower,
Mhm.
and they got me a job working as a data entry person for a company called Kaiser Permanente.
Oh, yeah.
They were around here for a long time. They're no longer in this area, but that's what kind of got, all I needed was just a little bitty teeny tiny nudge in the door, and I just took that, and I went from being a data entry clerk there. I just weaseled my way into a low level IT job, and then I just kept going from there. So I did that and worked there for about 4 or 5 years. And by the time I ended that job, I actually went from there to this consulting company that I worked with my wife's father at. And I had managed to move. I had managed to build enough credibility in my job with Kaiser Permanente that I was able to establish a job that is normally a job where I would need some kind of a degree to get into. But because I had built credibility and I had I had a good resume at that
Oh,
point
yeah.
with the things I had accomplished, this consulting company was interested in hiring me. And so they did. And I worked for them for about 2 years. They put me in a bank, and that's where my really long career started. So.
And there's so many, and bringing up hiring and that, there's so many
Mhm.
different things to look at. But sometimes I want the street time
Mhm.
versus the book time because that'll
Yeah,
tell me a lot. I
that's
mean,
right.
somebody walks in with 2 years. How many years did you have prior to going to the consulting firm?
Like 4 years.
Okay, that's
Yep,
a lot of knowledge.
yep,
Because
yep.
book in when I was in school, and we'll get around to talking about Tennessee in a minute because we could turn this into a Tennessee show. I went through in broadcasting, so all of our stuff was edited during the day in the studio. So not,
Mhm.
4 o'clock rolls around and we're just, we're kicking around campus or whatever. And all my friends that were in finance and computers and stuff like that, they're doing nothing but reading books. And a friend of mine got hired from IBM and they said, forget what you learned. We're
Yep,
going to reteach us. I'm like,
yep.
okay, well, that's sure his parents would like to hear that about the money.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're right about the background, though. That
Mhm,
helps as well. Just like
mhm,
I'm sure when somebody comes to you, because you can probably teach people
mhm.
your world to a
Yep,
point.
yep,
But man, when they come in with a year and a half, 2 years on a certain machine,
mhm.
oh, your ears perk up quick, don't they?
Yep,
Oof.
that's right.
Children.
I have 3 children.
Mhm.
My daughter Tabitha is the oldest, and then I have my middle son Benjamin and my youngest son Isaac, and
Okay.
they are 17, 15, and 12.
Who is more like dad? Who's more like mom?
Oh, that's a hard question. That
We're not
uh,
calling anybody out, but
yeah,
who's wired more like you?
so my daughter Tabitha is probably the most like me, because I'm very. My wife would agree with this. I'm somewhat stubborn, and things need to be my way. And Tabitha and I tend to have, we tend to butt heads sometimes
Mhm.
because of that. Because things need to be my way, and she wants things to be her way.
Man.
and things like that. So she's probably the most like me, maybe not in the best way. But I can see myself in all three of my children, and
Mhm.
I can see Patty in all three of my children as
Yeah.
well. So
Okay.
they definitely all have qualities from both of us.
And having raised 2 boys, having no idea what it's like to raise a daughter, I
Hmm.
salute you
Yeah.
because I have 4 1, 2 I have 4 nieces,
Hmm.
and I salute their dads 'cause I
Yeah.
know nothing
Yeah.
about that, so
Boys and girls are very, very different
I've heard
for
that.
sure.
Because my brother and my sister each have a boy and a girl, and I got 2 boys. So,
Yeah.
go figure that, but
Yeah.
yeah, they say it and just watching them grow up, yeah,
Yep.
completely different.
Yep.
Any animals in the house?
Yes, we have one dog. Her name is Ladybug, and she is a Springer Spaniel. She is she totally ignores me, and we have a very you could call it a love hate. I would call it a hate hate, and my wife is going to disagree with that because I do show her affection, but she
The
does
dog.
she, the
The dog
dog,
we show
well,
okay.
and her,
And her,
but
okay, good, just wanted
we're
to clear
talking
that
about
up.
the dog right
Patty,
now.
it's to
Yes,
both of you, not
yeah,
just the dog, just wanna clear that up. You're
yes,
listening, yes.
that's right. So yeah, Ladybug and I, we tolerate each other. I tolerate her more than she
Yeah,
tolerates me.
yeah.
So.
Um, how long have you had her?
Oh, goodness, I think about 5 years.
Was this a kid's decision to convince the parents we're ready for a
Uh,
dog?
it was everybody convincing me that we were ready for another dog. We had a dog before, who we had his name was Grady, and he was a Jack Russell Terrier.
Okay.
We had him for, I think, 12 or 13 years, so from when he was a puppy until he died, and, he was my baby,
Okay.
and Patty's too, but he had a special place in my heart, and Ladybug was the follow on. So she had a high bar to meet with
Yeah.
me. I think she met it with everyone but me. So
Sometimes a sequel takes a while to get up to speed,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Hobbies and activities of interest, I know you're a big outdoors guy.
I love the outdoors. I love hiking and backpacking in particular, and I like to fish. And, as much as I love doing all those things, probably the thing I love doing the most is just spending time with my family.
Yeah.
I try to spend as much time with them as I can. And really, one of the reasons why I wanted my independence and being a business owner was because I wanted to be able to have time, to be able to be flexible with my time so I could spend time with them. That was important to me.
I try to explain to people that owning a small business is stressful freedom,
Yes.
and people that have
It's
businesses, they go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I can
Yeah,
see that."
that's an understatement, but we could spend a whole show
You get
talking about
both, yeah,
that too.
and I know church is a big deal in a
Church is,
family life as
is
well.
very important to
Yep,
me. Yep,
yep,
my faith is very important.
good,
Yep.
good.
Mhm.
City of residence and for how long?
We have been in Wake Forest. Let me put it this way: we've had a Wake Forest address since 2006, so about 13 years. We actually live north of Rolesville. How we have a Wake Forest address, I do not know,
Okay.
but we're on the other side of 96, way up in northeast Wake County. In fact, our neighborhood has the Franklin County line running through it. So we're way up there.
Can can you be far enough away from your office?
Yeah, well, it's
Almost.
it's plenty far.
But the kids like it, it's a
I
nice neighborhood,
yeah,
right? All that,
yeah,
okay.
it's actually it's a good distance.
Your burning desire is to what?
Oh, goodness. I love to travel. I think one thing I would love to do is spend, like, a month or 2 months or something and just travel around the country. I'd love to see every state, and in particular, I'd love to go to all the national parks. I
Yeah.
think that would be really cool.
Are you a motorhome, let's drive around the country type guy?
Yeah, I
Okay.
I would do that.
It'd
Yeah.
be fun, yeah.
Yeah.
My in-laws, had a motorhome, they just sold it, like, this past year, and when each of the grandkids they have 4, when each one and they would go all over the country, he's ex-Air Force, so they know people everywhere,
Mhm.
and when each of the grandkids would graduate high school, they would get their own trip in the
Oh,
motorhome for
that's
a week and
cool.
a half, and they took my oldest son, they ended up going to Banff up in Canada,
Mhm.
and then to the Air Force Academy.
Mhm.
And so they love taking all the grandkids on, and except for their youngest grandchild, Caitlin, who belongs to my wife's sister. Caitlin didn't want to go on a trip. It turned out to be a family cruise. So she cut the best deal out of everybody. She goes, I want to go on a cruise. I don't go into motorhome.
That's funny.
I know. Key to your success.
I think it's my drive. I typically when I jump into something, I don't give up.
Mhm.
And I know we're going to talk about BNI a little bit in a minute, and
Yep.
I'll elaborate on that. But I think that's probably the biggest key because, especially owning a business, man, you were talking about the stress. Sometimes it's really hard to just keep
Oh,
going.
yeah.
Sometimes you want to just say, this is too much and
Mhm.
just go back to having someone else pay
Where do
you,
I punch in and
yeah,
punch out?
we're
Yeah.
exactly. But I think what has propelled me forward has just been pure determination, I think is
Mhm.
probably the biggest thing.
And usually what I've found with small business, the ones I've been involved with, it's the after hour and the weekend stuff. Because
Mhm.
9 to 5, Monday through Friday, you're rocking and rolling. It's your wheelhouse. You know this.
Mhm.
I got to do books tonight, or you get a phone call, hey, this van broke down or this
Yep.
machine. You're like, oh, there goes Saturday. So
Yep, that's
that's
right.
that's the toughest part that I've found.
Disliking what you're doing because it's coming your way.
It does, but after a while, sometimes I was like, oh, again. Or depending on if you have a service business, if
Mhm.
you're not set up right and you're the default guy,
Right.
Mhm.
like in our cleaning business we had, my brother and I had, if somebody called out, well, guess what?
Yep.
It was me for a while. I'm like,
Yep.
I got to figure out a way to do that. So
Well, and even when you like what you're doing, you as the owner of the business that you don't get to do that thing that you like all the time. In fact, you probably get to do that thing that you like about 20% of the time.
because you hire
That's
people to
that's
do the
what
fun stuff, and then
that's
you
what
take
makes it hard. But no, it's great. I don't wanna play down the business thing,
no, I
but
wouldn't
but
either. Yeah.
it is definitely not for everyone. I
No, it
would
is
say
not.
that.
But if you find you're doing what you wanna do, that's the way
Mhm.
to go.
That's right.
Because you can call your vacation time. You
Mhm.
can call your Friday afternoon off. You can, if
Yep.
once you get it running, then you can do that. So that's what I like about it as well.
That's right.
A few people watching here don't quite know you yet. They're going to by the end of the hour. What's something we don't know about you we haven't heard yet?
Wow. One of the things that I thought I would mention is
Mhm.
that I spent some time in when I graduated from high school and moved to Raleigh. I've always been somewhat of a thrill seeker. When I was graduating from high school,
Oh,
I
yeah.
was interested in going into the Air Force, and I spoke to my guidance counselor about that. And I learned fairly quickly that the reason I wanted to go into the Air Force was to be able to fly, and I learned fairly quickly through the guidance counselor and some vetting that due to my eyesight, if I did go into the Air Force, I would not be able to fly. So I was like, well, if I can't fly, I'm not going that path. So that became a non-interest to me. But when I moved to Raleigh, I decided to pursue that a little bit, and so I started taking flying lessons, probably a year after I moved here. And to I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing about me, but I took flying lessons until the point where I was ready to do my solos. They let me solo the plane. I made 3 solo flights and then promptly quit taking flying lessons. So I did not, finish that, because I did what I wanted to
You
do.
ju
I wanted to fly a plane,
I
I
was just
flew a
gonna ask
plane,
that,
and
yeah.
so and plus I found other things to spend the money on, and it's
Yep.
very expensive. So
Oh, yeah.
as a stupid kid, that was one of the
Yeah.
things that I just decided to blow money on, and believe me, I blew a
Yeah.
decent amount of money, but I can now say I flew a plane too, so
Most
can
people
you
have
say
never done
that?
that. No,
Okay.
I've never been in a cockpit, much less flown a
Alright.
plane. So,
So
anyways,
so
we're here with Scott Sams. He's the owner of Dynamic Print Solutions. He is the vice president of RD18. We meet Thursdays at noon at Red Hot and Blue on Falls and Noose. I would also recommend you come visit any chapter. You can go to trianglebni.com in the upper right hand corner. There's a button that says find a chapter, and please pull that down, take a look, and come visit us because there's a lot of good people working to help each other grow our business. We're obviously both big fans of BNI, and you and I got into it for different reasons, which we'll get to in a minute. But when is literally the first time you ever heard BNI?
Okay. So I think it was probably around 2015, somewhere in there. Someone that had been into my shop had asked me about coming and
Mm,
visiting their networking group, and I did. I visited a BNI that at that time, and it was extremely intimidating to me. It scared me to death, honestly,
mm,
when I went in there. So I went and I did the little thing, and I made up 30 seconds worth to cover a 1 minute thing. And, did not enjoy the experience at all at that time. But that was my very first experience.
And I do 2 member success trainings each month, and so I try
Mhm.
to give examples to people on the benefits because we all know we're there to help each other grow a business. We're all there for money, which is fine. But as I do this more, I get into telling here's what else it can do for you. And you're one of my examples
Mhm.
because this forced you. You knew you were getting into it because you had to grow a business,
Mhm.
but this forced you to do public speaking, didn't it?
That's right.
And
Yep.
that was one of the reasons why you wanted to, or you actually
Yep.
made yourself join, right?
Yeah, so in 2017, early in that year, I decided that I needed to do something different to grow my business. So I was seeing a little bit of a plateau. All of my business had been referral based, other than just a few small things. And I, don't have a ton of money to spend on advertising and marketing and all that kind of thing. So I was thinking about different ways that I could do it. And I decided that networking and just meeting people was probably going to be the best way for me to do that. So I visited another BNI early in 2017, and I felt the same intimidation and just nervousness about
Mm.
speaking and doing that kind of thing. But like I said, I'm determined sometimes, and once I decide that something is the right path for me, even if it's the wrong path,
Yeah.
I'm going to blaze down it, and that gets me in trouble. But by October of 2017, I had fully convinced myself that I needed to get into some kind of a networking
Okay.
group. So I just went to the BNI site and I picked out 3 BNIs that were nearby, that were in the Wake Forest and North Raleigh area. And I went and visited those 3 BNIs and picked the one that I thought I fit in the best with, because I had decided that I needed to I'd seen enough with the 2 I'd visited before that I needed to find one that had the right feel for me. I think that's an important thing about BNI too that we can talk about more. But I picked one and I just dove in. Just like I do with everything else, I dove into the BNI that I joined. And as you've said,
Yeah.
that was November 2017 that I did that, and I'm now serving as the assistant vice president. I'm
You are the
serving
vice
as the
president.
vice
Yeah.
president
Yeah.
of the chapter, and I'm enjoying that. And it's still hard. I mean, I'm an introverted person, so every time I get into that environment, it doesn't come natural to me. But it has definitely accomplished the purpose that I set out to accomplish by joining BNI. And I have benefited from a business standpoint. I do have business that I can directly attribute to BNI, but it's really about the whole giver's gain thing that BNI is about, that I feel is most beneficial to it. And that's just all the people that I've met, the relationships that I have developed being a part of BNI are much more valuable than the business that I've generated as a result of BNI.
And each month as a consulting director, we have to send reports in when we go visit a chapter. So before I joined the chapter that I'm in now with you, I was a consulting director for it. And I would send Steve Hand, who's been on the show before. He owns the franchise for Triangle BNI here. About, the good and bad about the chapter, how it went and everything. And I put for the last, I guess 4 or 5 months, I guess it's starting of the year, your reports, because I mean, we go down the agenda, like, okay,
Mhm,
vice president report, 10 minutes, all that good stuff like that.
mhm,
And I love, and I've told you this before, your vice president report, because we can inundate people with numbers.
mhm,
And if you're new to BNI or new to a group, you're like, wait, I just heard 11,000 numbers and nothing means anything. And I like the way you put it into context. I'm a huge context guy, and you put it in a context for the visitors for them to understand why our group is so good.
mhm.
And that's because you're a numbers guy. Are you a numbers
Yep,
geek a little bit?
yep,
But it works though, because you've been able to drill down
mhm,
and tell people, hey, here's kind of what you need to know.
yep, yep, and that's the goal.
Yeah. I like it. And you enjoy the VP role.
I do. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. Yep.
When you were visiting BNI, and even though it terrified you to talk in public, which anybody's watched the show long enough, I find that odd that people don't just want to stand up and talk all day long. But I don't know that I could fly a plane, and
Well,
I certainly don't want to do numbers.
yeah,
So
you're crazy.
yeah,
So.
but it's funny how we're all wired, which is good. I mean, we need different. We don't need the same of everybody. But you got the structure and the concept of it,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
You just had to figure out, how do I fit?
That's right. That's right. Once I understood that it wasn't about coming in each week and having a referral or having reported something that I did, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is being there for your chapter members and being there for the visitors and helping them in whatever way you can. There are many weeks when I go in, and I think other people deal with this too. I don't think I'm the only person with BNI experience that has dealt with being afraid of going in without having something to
Mhm.
report.
Yeah.
But it's not about that. There are weeks that I go in and don't have anything to report other than I enjoyed trying talking about businesses with my coworker or with my BNI
Yeah.
people.
And just
So
it's like with anything,
it's
it's
yeah,
not we're not gonna be spot on every week.
yeah.
It's just not gonna
That's
happen,
it's
but
it's
the
yeah.
next week, you might have brought 3 of something.
That's right.
We're good.
Yeah,
As long
it
as
all
on an
balances
average,
out.
and we try to tell
Mhm,
people that, and I tell people who are just getting into BNI,
mhm,
don't let it overwhelm you because you may not have something tomorrow, but next Tuesday, you bring 2, you're good. If you bring on
mhm.
average this, and this, you're good.
That's right. Yep.
So Scott and I were meeting the other day at Panera's, just chatting on everything, and you have when you first opened, you were a printer,
Mhm,
but now you are a graphic design sign company.
mhm,
Tell us the difference on because we think
mhm.
you hear printing company, we're thinking business cards, letterhead, and you've
Yep.
grown past that into big old building signs.
Yeah, thanks. That's a good question. So actually, I don't think I chose probably the best name for my business because it is called Dynamic Print Solutions. The print part is more about graphics and printing full color and that kind of thing. And I just didn't think very clearly about that because truly the first thing people think of when they hear dynamic print solutions is probably that we can print flyers and brochures and business cards. While that's not our core business, our core business is about signage and graphics and things that help businesses promote themselves and help them get the word out with their customers about what they do. We do offer printing of those things, flyers and brochures and business cards. But we do that as a convenience for our customers so they don't have to go to multiple places in order to get what they need. So, our core business is signage, and signage takes there are many varieties of signage, but we can do anything from the building sign that you have on the front of your building to the marquee sign that's out at the road, the window graphics that you may have, including your logo and your business hours and things like that, and vehicle graphics and those kinds of things, and just about anything else related to promoting your business. Those are the things that we do.
And when we think signs, we generally think when you drive downtown and you see the red hat sign and you see all
Hmm.
those.
Hmm.
And as consumers, we need to realize the value of those signs
Hmm.
inside the building so we know
Yep.
where we're going. Even the
Hmm.
sign next to an elevator. If
Hmm.
it's 5-story building, you're looking to do things like that, directional signage,
That's right.
men's, women's
Yep.
bathroom. I mean, all that stuff inside,
Yep.
right? So when you say signs, it literally is
That's
across
right.
the
Signs are everywhere. They are so prolific that we don't even realize that we're looking at them most of the time. And sometimes that's good because you want you want to naturally lead someone somewhere. So you don't want the sign always to be gaudy and
yeah.
like stand out and that kind of thing. So sometimes it's good that they're not noticed, but other times you want to be noticed, and we try to help our customers figure out what each circumstance is and whether they
Yeah.
should make something that really stands out or whether they should make something that blends and that the customer is not going to pay a lot of attention to. It's just going to get them where they need to go.
And when a couple of the businesses I've been involved with uh, years ago, I love when people, first of all, if you have a magnet car door sign, look, walk 10 yards away from that or even 5 yards away from that and see if you can read it. Because I love the people, you got to think of a billboard. You and I have had this conversation. Better
Mhm.
be big old bold letters.
Yep.
Because if you do cool cursive with a magenta and you can't, you got 5 seconds to read it. And
Yep.
I'm assuming you've had to talk customers out of while it looks pretty on your
Mhm.
computer screen, right?
Oh, yeah. That is the biggest problem that we face is
Yeah.
helping people understand what it looks like in reality versus what it looks like on the computer screen, because it can look really cool on the screen,
Oh,
but you get that
yeah.
onto a sign and people are not going to be able to read it.
No, and the vehicle wraps are important too, because we always like to help educate people and give them some things to think about on the show, is if your car is wrapped, and I'm not kidding, go 20 paces away
Hmm.
and see if you can read it. Because I was at, Sheetz filling up the other day, and I was 15 steps from this van. Um, it was a HVAC company,
Hmm.
and he had a cool logo of an animal and then his company name, and I couldn't read the company name because
Hmm.
the letters had faded.
Hmm.
And
Yep,
people need to walk around, do a quality control on, can anybody read that?
that's right.
Oh,
That's
drives
right.
me nuts.
Yep.
And the door magnets just don't even get me started. Do you remember your first client?
Oh goodness.
Let's go when you moved into the new place in
Yeah,
Raleigh.
no, that's going to be really hard. I've had so many customers that, oh,
Who's your
um,
longest running client?
my longest running client is going to be my own church, because right from the very beginning, I did work for them, and
What
I have
church?
been, Mount Vernon Baptist
All
Church
right.
is where I go, and as soon as I started the business, I wanted to help them as much as I could and it was really somewhat what got me headed in the direction that I went with signage, because I knew that they were spending a lot of money on that kind of thing, and I thought I could save them money. And so that was one of the reasons why I got started.
Very nice. What's the biggest sign you guys have ever printed or made
Printed is not the
or
right term.
made?
The biggest sign that we've ever brokered, let's put it that
Okay.
way, is the RFA church sign that is on their facility on Yonkers Road that you can see from the Beltline. So it's
Oh,
about 6 feet
yes.
vertical, and it's about 30 feet horizontal. So about 6 by 30.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, very cool.
And we designed that sign, and we facilitated the manufacture of it. We didn't actually we use vendors for
Okay.
that fabrication and all that kind of stuff. We can do the installation, but we can't fabricate things that big.
Is that the most is that what's the highest place or the most awkward place you guys have a sign or had to have a sign put in?
Probably the most awkward place we've ever tried to hang a sign is in the lobby of a church before, where the ceiling was probably 25 feet, and it was a drop ceiling at that, and we
No.
had to figure out how to securely connect the sign uh, to the structure, not the drop ceiling,
Yeah.
because
It's
it would
not
just
gonna
drop.
work.
so so basically, we had to figure out a way to fasten the sign to the structure and then just run it through the drop ceiling and hang down. That was
Huh.
probably the most awkward
Okay.
that we've done, because it was in the middle of the lobby, so it's hard to get to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Is
that's
there a
probably
sign you won't make or haven't made before for whatever reason?
uh,
And you don't have to call out the
that
company, but is
that
there
that's a
one?
hard question too.
Mm.
I, I can't say there's not a sign I won't
Okay.
make, but I
Yeah.
haven't met
Okay.
no one has come to me yet that has asked for something that I couldn't or wouldn't do.
Okay. Have
So,
you done stuff out of state or out of the city?
we have, but that's very, very
Okay.
unusual. We sold a very large sign, even larger than the one that that that's at RFA Church. We
Wow.
sold a huge sign to one of our customers who's local, but they had a facility in Indianapolis,
Okay. Mm,
and we brokered that sign for them.
mm.
I've never seen it,
Okay.
but we took care of it.
Now, folks, you can't see what just happened, but Amnon lowered his microphone, so here comes the question. And
He
you're on
brought.
your own.
Did you ever make any of those signs that Bill Engvall was? Here's your sign.
Bill Engvall, the comedian.
No,
Yeah.
I did not. That's
Oh, tell me you didn't spend time
that
pulling your microphone down for that.
that is funny.
Although that would
Here's
be
your
good.
sign.
That would be a good marketing campaign. Here's
Yeah.
your sign. I
Yeah,
like that.
right.
So we are here with Scott Sams, owner of Dynamic Print Solutions, member of RD18. He's the vice president. We meet red hot and blue Thursdays at noon on Falls and Noosa. Come out and visit us. Get to know Scott a little bit more. One of the other things you have going on is you do signage for realtors.
That's right.
How
Yep.
did that come about? And then we'll get into what it is, but how did it come about?
Okay. I have a relationship with the real estate community, in that I do a real estate sign service, And that came about because, one of my customers long ago, was talking to me about how
Hunter
they
Rowe.
yeah,
Yep.
yep, it was, Mike Regan with Hunter Rowe. It was
Mhm.
previously, Regan& and Company. Uh, a very good friend of mine was working for Mike, and I was selling them their signs, and they were doing the putting out and all that, and uh, they came to me and talked to me about the possibility of doing something where I provide everything for them and take care of it, and that conversation led to me helping them figure out what it is they were looking for and come up with a service that that took care of that, and so we started that, a long time ago. I'm not even gonna guess of how long ago it was. It was probably 2008 or before, probably
Oh, so that
before.
was before you moved to the Wake Forest? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yeah, this was before I had a storefront, and, started doing that for them, and, they loved it, and so I just kinda it was always just a small, kind of side thing that we did in addition to the signage. But because I have the ability to make all of the stuff, this it makes this service possible. And I eventually started advertising it to other real estate agents, and it has slowly grown to a pretty decent size. And it's actually something that I am very soon going to start promoting on a much higher level. I'm not quite ready to do that yet. I'm working on some technical aspects of how it will work, but that's kind of where I'm headed.
I
So that's
like it.
something that maybe I'll come back and talk about
Yeah.
in detail at a
And it
at a
made
future time.
sense when he
Mhm.
approached you about talking about that,
Mhm.
right? Because
Yes.
you're I mean, you can print stuff, that
Yep.
wasn't the problem, so
Yep.
what
Yep.
I like about it is, A, it's easy, it's one-stop shopping, and
That's right.
society now is, "What can you do for me now that I don't have to do for myself?" Which
That's
is
right.
a good thing, and I
Mhm.
blame the microwave or the remote control for starting that whole thing, but
Yep.
it's just gonna get different and worse.
Yep.
Probably better depending on your age. Uh, but so if anybody watching this is a realtor
Mhm.
or they related or know anybody that's a realtor,
Mhm.
you house their sign, you print their signs,
Mhm.
you house their signs, and you put them out and take them up.
That's right, I do all of that. I put them out, take care of the rider changes, and
Oh,
pick them up, take care of the maintenance and all that kinda stuff. We are a turnkey solution, which means that we are gonna take care of everything for you. You should not have to go to the property for a sign-related task. You may go to the property to meet with the sellers or for some other reason, but you shouldn't have to go to the property for your sign. We take care of it all.
so those people, and I don't know why people, why realtors, and like we are talking earlier, it's probably a control thing. They want to
Mhm,
put their own sign out, another reason to come to the neighborhood and the property, and I
mhm,
get that part of it.
mhm,
But for the dollars you're asking for, which is not a lot,
mhm,
I mean, the drive time, and again, if you're a realtor in Cary
mhm,
and you get a listing in Wake Forest,
mhm.
you'll have to drive out there minimum twice,
That's right.
probably 3 times.
That's right.
Just take care of that one sign,
Yep.
and they can pay you to do that.
Yep.
Oh,
That's
people,
right.
we try to bring simplicity to life, and that just is one of those. So,
Yep.
for people that have a brick and mortar, let's
Mhm.
start with that. They have a brick and mortar business. What are the mistakes they're making? What are they not thinking about for proper signage that they would need for their customers?
Well, the first thing I would say is if you have a brick and mortar location and you don't have any signage on the building that you are there,
Mhm.
that would probably be the biggest mistake. Uh, you do have to take into account the restrictions of the city and the landlord and things like that, and those are all things that we can help you with. But you should immediately try to get a sign on your building if you don't have one, because otherwise, every time you ask someone to come to your location, they're gonna have to find it. And if there's no sign on the building, they're gonna struggle to find it just using
Yeah.
the address. So the second thing I would say is to make sure that they have something on the door to let their customers know that it's the right door. Usually, with brick and mortar, there's multiple doors, or at least in a lot of cases there are. And there's a particular door you probably want your customers to use. And
Mhm.
if it's not marked in any way, they're just going to come to the first door that they see and try to come in that door. So that's another way that we can help.
And then when you walk into buildings and there's going back to the signage on the outside,
Mm.
I don't know how other people give directions, but when somebody can point out a building that I know where that is, I'm like, "Oh, know exactly where that is.
Yep,
So to have a big old sign like that out there instead of telling
that's
me
right.
north, south, east, or west and make it, I'm not that kind of guy. So
Yeah, when you start having people using your sign as a
yes.
landmark, even when they're trying to get somewhere else, you're in good shape
Yeah.
at that point,
And
and that's what we wanna help you do.
exactly. And sometimes you'll hear a commercial, the company promoting themselves, they say, we're across the street from wherever. I love that. That's the
Yeah,
ultimate, like, oh, I
don't
know
you
where
wanna
that
be the
is.
one with that sign, yeah.
But everybody's across the street from you.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
But are we and sometimes we think these big signs or signage in general could cost more money than we think.
Mhm.
But my guess is in these days with technology, there's all kinds of options, right?
There are, yeah. I mean, permanent signage that's fabricated is expensive, but it is also it has value in that it does give you that professional look and a presence for your location. You can though do other things that will get people's attention and help people know, including things like having flags by the road. There are restrictions in the city of Raleigh and other places about flags and how long they can be out
Yeah.
and things like that. So you have to be careful, and we can help with that. But those are a good way to get people's attention as well. You just get a couple of flags with your business name on them, stick them out in your front yard or your the space along the road, and that will help people see something that maybe they hadn't seen before.
Mhm.
So yes.
I like that.
Mhm.
When did you know this printing thing was going to work? Do you know
I don't
today?
know yet. Let's talk about that in
That's such an
5
easy answer.
years.
I get that from more people. When did you kind of have a feeling that,
Yeah,
you know what, I think this was the right decision, especially when you
yeah.
moved into a new building or a building?
Yeah, so, as I've said already, it's stressful, but I'm confident now that our what we need to bring in for the business to be successful, we have the customer base to bring that in, and it's probably been that way for, a few years, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 years. So it took if I started in 2010,
Mhm.
it's taken, probably 6 plus years for
Fair
me to
enough.
get to the point where I feel comfortable that I have a base that will support the business, not assuming no growth.
Where is your next growth?
We are doing a ton more vehicle graphics now.
Okay.
That seems to be an area where people are beginning to realize the value of having your vehicle advertised for your
Yeah.
business. A vehicle is an expensive thing to have as a an asset or a liability, depending on how you look
Yeah.
at it on the in the business. And when you put signage on it, you automatically generate a ton of visibility just by the simple fact that you're driving around on the roads. And we could talk about statistics or whatever, but in terms of the what you pay versus
Oh,
what
yeah.
versus the number of eyes that see your signage, it's incredible. It's super low, lower than
Oh,
any other form of advertising.
and depending on what your price point is on whatever service or product you have, it could be one call.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
in the marketing world, they tell you I've got to show you my logo 7 times
Hmm.
before you decide, okay, A, I remember it,
Yep.
and B, let me give them a call.
That's right.
Here's some free advice for you to pass on to your next vehicle wrap customer. Having driven a truck in the past with a phone number on it, here's what not to do. We had an answering service number, kind of standard, right?
Hmm.
Until you want to text. And then they texted to the answering machine number, and I didn't hear from them. They called me back like, "I come in and text me back." I didn't get your number. So always think that through in
Yes,
today's day and age with people texting
that's right.
and with technology going where it is and everything.
That's right.
And that, by the way, never dawned on me
Yeah.
that they would try to text, but I guess people do. So,
Yep.
um, Scott was born. We did not get into this too much, but Scott was born in Bluff City, Tennessee. Went to Sullivan East High School, so
Mhm.
we are both big University of Tennessee fans, and we could
Mhm.
have spent another hour doing that. I'm surprised that orange is not in every one of your signs that you put out in the city. I'm just bothered by that, Scott.
Wow, I'm sorry. We should talk about that for just a second, though,
Yes,
because you have a history in NASCAR,
yes.
and promoting and that kinda
Mhm.
thing, and so what do you know about the Bluff City, Bristol area related to NASCAR?
Well, I know a couple things. A, it's the bull ring of NASCAR. Bristol is, and
That's right.
I went to the Tennessee Virginia Tech football game a couple years
Oh,
ago.
cool.
I
Yep.
did. That was we were
Yep.
5 rows from the top. And if
Yep.
you've never been to Bristol, it seats 140,
60.
160, and it's a long. We had to get binoculars just to see players' numbers. We were so high,
Yep.
and I didn't care. I just
Yep.
wanted to be there. There were my Tennessee rednecks there. There were the Virginia Tech rednecks there. Everybody got along. We had a blast. But yeah, Bristol is the bull ring of NASCAR.
Yep,
Yes.
Bristol sure is, and it's
Yeah.
the only sporting event stadium bigger than Neyland Stadium
Yes. Yeah.
in Tennessee.
Yeah. And Bristol, for those of you who may not know geography, goes right down the middle of 2 states,
That's
Virginia
right.
and Tennessee. So I learned when I went to school at UT, when somebody said I'm from Bristol, I had to learn which side.
Yeah, that's right.
Not that it mattered, but
The
you
good
felt like you
side
had
or
to
the
ask.
bad
Yeah,
side. We
exactly.
won't get into that conversation.
Would you rather have a client come to you with what they want, or here's my logo. I have no idea what it should look like and what we should do.
Yeah, I would rather them come to me with an idea, but not a this is what I want.
Yeah.
Because most of the time I would say when someone comes to us and they already have what they think they want, if they came up with it themselves, it's usually not something that's going to be productive. It's going to it needs
Yeah.
to be polished for the purpose that they're going to use it. Sometimes they'll come to us with marketing copy that they've generated and paid for, and those are always good. But a lot of times it's something they've come up with and they just don't understand. It's not.
They don't want
It's
to
not
hear. Oh,
No.
right.
Yeah.
It's no fault of theirs. They just don't understand. Yep.
And we've talked about this. One of the things we talk about on the show, because we've had so many specific industries here, legal, real estate, insurance, and all that.
Mhm.
And I always laugh in BNI, well, in general, when somebody goes, and my Uncle Billy, who's a plumber, does my taxes. That's not a good idea. So I would imagine clients have brought you before, oh yeah, this is what our so-and-so wants.
Oh yeah.
And then you right there have to, as business owner, I got to make a decision.
Yep.
A, what do I say? And B, how do I say it?
Yeah, we try to be very general in our rejections, but and we will also do exactly what the customer wants to. If they are
Oh,
determined
boy.
that what they brought is what they want, we'll try to help them see the light. But
Yeah.
if they don't and they insist, then they'll get what they asked for.
I go back to the vehicle wrap. If people would just go 20 steps away and then try, and again, the door magnets.
Yep.
You cannot read cursive 2 lanes over.
That's right.
You just
Yep.
cannot. So if you have that on your car, or a loved one has that on their car, walk 20 steps away and try to read it.
Yep.
It's just not going to work. It may look great, but you're losing. You've wasted money.
Yep.
Oh,
Magnets have a multitude of issues that we
Yeah.
could spend time talking about.
Yeah.
But yes.
It just, and again, go to the experts like Scott and his group that'll tell you this is just not going to look right.
That's
It
right.
may be factually correct, but it's not going to look right. And then at the end of the day, then what are you paying for?
Yep.
Because nobody's going to know. Oh, that's you mean the place with the ugly logo, or
Yeah.
or you can't read it? Oh,
The
nothing
magnet
worse.
I found on the side of the road, you mean that one? Because it blew off?
Oh, I didn't even thought about that.
Yeah,
They fly off.
they can.
They're not made correctly.
That if they're not the right size, if there's an air gap, we've had lots of people come in and say, "What happened to my magnet?" Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Yeah, I hadn't even
Whole
thought
nother
about
story.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that part of it. Mine was just what it looked like. Could people read it and call the phone number? And usually the phone number's at the very bottom, and it's so tiny
Yep.
that you spend at a red light. You're trying to read the letters,
Yep.
and the light turns green. You didn't even get to the number because you couldn't
Yep.
read the name of the company. So you
Yep.
you drive away with nothing.
That's right. It's
Oh.
a very limited space usually if you're using magnets,
Yeah.
and people think they want to get, the name, a list of what they do, and a phone number on there. There's just no room for that. You
It's
can't
good.
do it.
It's good for red lights and in front of your house in the neighborhood.
Yep.
But at 55 miles an hour, it's kind of hard.
Yep.
So go to Scott. Go to the folks at Dynamic Print Solutions. They'll answer those questions for you. They will help you grow your business, because signage is important. If people don't, you could have the greatest business in the world. If people don't know you're there or know who you are, it does not matter. So, Scott, we appreciate it today. Enjoyed the chat on signage and printing. You're the first one on the show. We've talked about that, I believe. And it's just good to know for people to understand when they've got a business, you gotta, and that's another way to promote it.
Yeah.
It's not just signage; it's promotion of your company.
That's
So,
right.
so Scott, please go to Dynamic Print Solutions. Check out Scott and his team; they'll do a wonderful job for you. And we'll see you next week on Triangle BNI. I hate those door.
Yeah, I didn't want to go too deep into
No,
that.
that's
that
fine.
would
Yeah,
be
but
that would be a 15.
I
minute
want to
conversation.
honk and I want to roll down my windows. Do you know you can't do that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You are
Wow, that
tuned to the
was,
Nissan
perfect
Communications
timing.
Network.
Yeah.
If you
Yep.
tuned in too
Do you
late,
do any
you can always
editing, or
watch
do you
each
just
program in
typically
its
just-
entirety
done.
or download an
It's done.
MP3
That's
audio
so
file
just-
of it
Yeah,
in the
it is
archive
what it is,
section
and we
at
don't-
nissancommunications.com.
wrong with need that.
Don't forget to
But I
subscribe
just-
to our
just-
YouTube
it's
channel,
conversation.
follow us on
Just have some
Twitter,
fun,
and
tell
like
some
us on
story.
Facebook.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Sponsored
So
by
how many signs
Telestream's
did you make for the
Wirecast
church
software,
when you first told them, hey, I want to do this
StreamingGear.com,
for you?
Carolina
In the
Apparel,
beginning,
and
not a
DeltaForce.net.
lot.
Okay.
I mean, it was, I might have, the first few months I was doing it, I might have made maybe $1,000 a month or less, really, in sales.
Yeah.
It was
Oh.
very, very